hold on, it's just occurred to me. I'm already in the beginning of the video and you guys don't even know what I'm planning. So let's take a trip back in time to when I actually started planning this and when I placed the order. Right now we're in Home Depot in the lumber section. Nope, nope, no. Further back. What we're doing is we're going to be making over my garage. Now, I would love to do a full-blown man cave, obsessed garage style. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't have that much space, and I don't have a separate garage for kids' toys, stuff like that, wifey's car. But I am going to make this into a kind of workshop slash storage space that is primarily going to be meant for me and the channel. I'm going to kind of go through how the garage is now, and then I'm going to show you guys the transition as we actually build out the garage. So we're looking at it, this was the way that I felt was the best way to represent it. We're actually looking at the garage from the back, and I've actually left the wall that we're looking, so the interior wall, I've actually left it clear so that we can see into the garage. And I'm gonna quickly show you guys what's currently in there, which is our water heater and our sink. The really cool thing is I actually do have a sink with hot water because it runs directly off the water heater, so it's really cool. I can literally clean up before heading in the house. I can wash parts in there. It's awesome. And it is hot water, not just cold water. So there's that, and then there is the kitchen counter that the previous owner had. It was a basic counter with two cabinet doors on each side, and then two drawers. Really not even adequate for him because the drawers were already falling apart by the time I got to them, and they were still being used. And then the cabinets before. Okay, whenever it decides to load. Okay, so right off the bat, if you have ever needed to make space, you can already tell that having these cabinets pressed up against that wall basically means that as soon as you open that door, that is an unusable space. So right away that had to go. My idea to reconfigure the cabinets, since this is 3 separate cabinets, is we're actually going to split them. So we're going to split all 3 up. I'm going to move one over to the edge towards the golf cart door over here. And then that'll leave me one here and one here, which I'm going to separate specifically to build a corner shelf. That's going to take care of that. So with that, we're going to eliminate the old kitchen counter. That's gone. And then we're actually going to put in our workbenches. So the simplest thing we did was actually started by doing framing directly into the concrete wall with the Tapcon screws. If you've never used Tapcon screws, they're the best thing ever now that I've finally discovered them. So that's all going to be framed with 2x4s right up to the framing of the garage door. I'm pushing it right to the very limit. Then I've framed out the inside with shorter cuts of 2x4. Now my intention was to try and have a 24-inch work surface for 2 reasons. I wanted to have a 24-inch work surface because that was a fairly large surface. I didn't want something that was uncomfortable to reach the wall, but I didn't want something that I'd have to reach over and bend over the counter. The other main reason is to make more efficient use of my materials. By maxing myself out at 24 inches, if I took an 8-foot sheet of plywood and cut it lengthwise down the middle, each one of those sections would cover my entire workbench. So yes, I could technically have a longer workbench, maybe 25, maybe 26, 30 inches, but I'm going to use up more material. So I did this to do it in a more efficient fashion. Now, the other thing I did do is I also did a backsplash. So, and as you actually see it, this is one side, here's the other. So that's what that one will look like, and I'll fill in and I'll explain the gap in a minute. But this is the primary one. So it was just to kind of give it, a little aesthetic touch. So then we can go ahead and add in the legs. Now the legs are what supports the entire back framing is supported on the wall with Tapcons. The whole front is supported by the legs onto the ground. The legs are 42 inches tall. So, and that was for me, in my case, I'm 6 feet tall. I wanted something roughly belly button height because I've looked and that's what people say is comfortable. You don't want something where you're basically having to bend over, and even if you don't have to bend over, having your arms fully extended when you're working on something, it's very awkward. So I wanted something that if worse came to worse, I could use a draft chair Those are the chairs that stand rather high, that people typically use for, like, you know, for design drafting on those huge angled tables. I wanted something like that, so if I did want to sit down for a long period of time, I did have a seat, but I'm mostly going to be standing, which means I want to be able to basically almost to rest my elbows, and I want whatever I'm working on, if I'm working on a small project, I don't want to have to bend over to have it at eye level if I need a closer look at whatever I'm working on. So that was the intention with this. Now we can go into, and by the way, the exact same is happening on the other side. So now I can pull up the, here we go. Here's our plywood. And this, now I know I colored them differently just because I wanted to keep track of what I was doing. And my original intention was actually to stain the plywood black. That was my original intention. You'll see why I still have it that way, but why I'm not changing it, because it's going to be colored differently on the outside. And once again, here you can see my point being is that effectively this piece was meant to be a 4x4 sheet, but I'm going to try to see if I can make this in one cut, because I want to have as few seams as possible. And we'll see that in the transition. And here we go. I did group everything together, waiting for the SketchUp to catch up. There we go. And now you can actually see the plywood on the actual shelves that I'm going to be building. I did link them together, so we'll just talk about them. These are the shelves I'm going to be building. I'm going to show you the framing of that in just a minute. So as you can see, there's a little gap here, and that is because of the facing or the fascia that I want to put on the work shelves themselves. And again, this is also with the intention of adding just a hair more of workspace, and you'll see what I mean. That is, here we go, the 1x6 facing. So my goal here is, and I should have had pieces, but if you can imagine that this is the end of the table. This is here. This is the plywood. The 1x6 is actually going to sit here. So it'll give me an additional ½ inch. It's going to face it's going to give the front a nice face. I bought better 1x6 than I did 2x4. And it's gonna give the bench a different look. It'll make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And if I wanted to, it gives me a place to put some like under counter lighting, just for some nice aesthetics. If I ever do shots in here at night, maybe some filming, it'll look good. So I know the look I'm looking for. And then here you can see that 1x6 fills the gap. So on this side, we're going to be doing the shelving, and I'll show you guys that now. I did the same thing for this. I did the anchor beams in the back. So it's the anchor beams, and then here I'm showing a representation of the actual legs themselves. The idea is, I haven't decided fully. I'll decide when I actually do like build this piece. If I'm gonna do one straight 8-foot piece, and then I simply attach the shelf framing, which is this, to it as I go, or if I actually do the bottom shelf and then another frame with legs and then another frame with legs and then another frame, and then have each one sit on it below. Since they're all supported on the wall, as long as they all sit flush with their legs, anything that's on top will actually be supported by the legs of the ones below it. I'm not an engineer, but I don't see myself putting an engine block on every shelf, so I shouldn't really have a problem. So that's effectively what it's going to look like in terms of space. Now that looks like a ton of space, but once you start adding the stuff that I already have in the garage, that's where you start to see why this was so necessary and why I needed to do everything. For example, there's a tool cart that you may have seen in a few of my other videos that I built some time ago. That thing has to take up space, so that's where that's going to go. Then I've got all the storage shelves, and that's here. Those are actually those are the plastic ones. I have the metal ones, but I've actually proportioned them to the correct sizes. You can see the lawnmowers down there. So I went to Home Depot and I got some of their HDX yellow and black storage bins, and I believe I got the 27 gallons and the 12 gallons, and you'll see why. So here they are. These larger ones are the 27 gallons, and then the smaller ones are the 12 gallons. Now the cubes that I used are representative of their maximum dimensions. So remember that these bins, because they stack one inside of the other, they get narrower at the bottom. So the width and the length and the height are their maximum dimensions. That's the tallest point, the widest point, and the longest point. And this is what I wanted. I would rather put the 27s sideways and have two of them with a gap in the middle, rather than have them sticking out. And then I got the 12s because I wanted to have smaller bins for other objects if I needed it, and then those could go there as well. I haven't decided if I'm going to put any shelving down here. I probably will, but for the time being, sorry, I'm not really good with it, but for the time being, I actually kind of like having the storage space down here, and I can always add it later. But with this layout, this is going to give me more storage. And even after I add, for example, let's say that I add the vehicles bin. As you know, as you guys know, we have two Audis, and you may not know that I also have a motorcycle. So it may look a little bit tight, but if you notice that there is space there for a human to walk by, and there is a Jeep Liberty, an A6, and a motorcycle parked inside the garage with room to spare. Very little room to spare, but room to spare. Also, this was the original place that I had intended to put that old kitchen cabinet. That got taken up. As I said, this is not going to be a car guy only. That got taken up by the family bicycles and the scooters. With that said, let's get back to where we actually start unloading all the stuff and we get this thing going, because I am so excited to show you guys the finished product. I can't wait to finish this thing. This is exactly what I wanted. I've always wanted my own garage, and this, getting the chance to build it myself, this is going to be awesome. So let's get everything unloaded. Didn't record when we walked in. Right now we're in Home Depot in the lumber section, and I just got the 2x4s. 30 in total. And this is what's gonna be the underbelly, like the legs, all the structuring of the shelves, and both counters that we're gonna do for each side of the garage. Came through this aisle, I think a couple weeks ago, and they had sliding doors on their side. And there was another guy in the aisle, and me and him were just kind of like looking at each other, looking at the windows. And then we realized they were not windows, they were sliding doors. It felt kind of stupid. So the next pieces we're getting are these. This is 1x3, and this is going to be like a mini backsplash kind of. So this is what we're gonna do with those, and I'll kind of show you here on the diagram what I'm talking about. So, because what I'm thinking is this. And then, is there a smaller piece? So what I'm thinking is this. Maybe, because I'm thinking 1/2 inch. Because if I do 1x3, that's gonna be... You think I should do the 1x4?
Either that or go big and go 1x6 as well. Yeah.
Too much?
No. I think that type of a backsplash, I think, would look good. You have been downgraded from that really beautiful wood to this semi-nice wood.
You would be absolutely insulted if I were to paint such nice wood rather than stain it. We're getting the cheaper cuts, which is actually going to save us a ton. So, the only downside... Actually, this is a nice one. Okay, so that's 2x4s, and then we went ahead and decided to swap out the 1x6, the 1x3s and 1x6s to all 1x6s. So the 1x6s are going to be the pieces that face the front of the counter, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then the 1x3s were meant to be the backsplash or the backing, and we're actually going to swap the 1x3s out and put 1x6s into the whole thing. So it's it should look better, because I don't think I took into account that the 1x3 would only be like 2 inches showing. It'd be very small, so having something like this might actually be nicer. Onto the 8x4 sheets. I also want to point out, if you guys notice, the card I got doesn't make noise. the wheels aren't broken, and it's so much nicer than having one that goes thunk, 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 thunk. One. We can just edit this out. Not me not looking heroic, being able to toss these on.
I'm trying not to laugh on camera. Honey, from the other side. Do you see how the other side has more space on the floor?
On to the next thing. Okay, so now comes the all-important part of buying toys. We're gonna go with this one. I know it has a fence. It's got a 10-inch blade, and it's semi-portable. Can be tucked away in the corner. We're gonna go with this one, but I've had a bunch of people tell me that if I'm not gonna go nuts, like this is actually a good one. So we're gonna go with this one, and then we're gonna grab a miter saw on the other side. So the table saw is mostly for the sheets and for some of the angle cuts, but then the miter saw is for all the 2x4s. So, okay, so before I head over to the other side, we are also gonna grab one of these, the Ryobi miter saw quick stand, not the 99 cents, that. I'm gonna grab one of these, throw it into the cart, and then I'm gonna check out the saws. Oh, I can't make the turn. Okay. Okay. And there it is. Let me see. It is?
I'm asking.
No, these are corded. You don't think this is...
No, we can go with that one. It's like double price. Which one did we say we were gonna get? Oh. No, but the 12 inch is not here. They're out.
We can get the 10-inch.
Say just $50.
So we scheduled a pickup because we don't have anything large enough to bring this stuff home. It wasn't bad. The delivery was about $80, and what was it, a week?
Yeah.
We took all the small stuff with us, but we really wanted to be the ones picking out our own wood, and we wanted to make sure that we had the tools we wanted.
1 week later.
Dude, check that thing out. The things you could do with that forklift.